Hello, and welcome to Live with Amanda. Today, we're going to be talking about how to financially plan and prepare when you are in private practice. So, I'll tailor this if you're thinking about starting a practice or you're already in practice and you're newer and you're wondering like, where does money come from? How do I budget? What do I do? And so, the first thing that I would recommend that you do if you're thinking about starting or you're stressed about money is to really take a look at your personal financial situation. I don't think that's talked about enough because there's a lot of nuances and variations when we're talking about money. People can talk about making six figures, but they live in a high cost of living area, and that doesn't mean the same thing as it does maybe in a low cost living area. If you have very high student loans, if you have credit card debt, if you have car payments, you have mortgages, like all of those things inform your decisions when it comes to private practice. When you start a business, being in private practice is starting a business, the personal and the business kind of blend sometimes. It's important to keep them separate from an accounting standpoint and from a financial standpoint, but like what you need in your private practice is going to reflect what you need in your personal life. So I think it's really important to review what you have, like I said, going on in your personal life. I know when I first started my private practice, and this was 10 years ago and things were very different, like even just 10 years ago, it was really important for me not to have any extra debt going into private practice. At the time, I was working at an agency. I was making okay money, and I would carry a little bit of a credit card debt, and then I would pay it off, and then I would get a little bit, and I'd pay it off and get a little bit. That first year of my private practice, like that stopped. I'm like, I can't do that anymore, because I need to make sure that everything is settled. Because I knew if I didn't have any extra debt, I had student loans at the time, like, probably most of you do. And I made sure that I had a cushion, right? That was the other thing. I spent 1 year working at my agency and working in private practice, saving up that private practice money and really paying off debts, creating a cushion so that when I left my job, it wasn't such a shock. There was a cushion in my private practice going into it. So that was really helpful. Your situation may not require that, or you might not want to do that. You might be like done with your agency. You want to go into private practice and you're like going to jump right in. Then it's going to be much more important to be clear about how much money you want to make in your private practice and exactly how you're going to do that, right? You have to decide how quickly you want to build up, how quickly you want calls to come in, and if you have any funds, a budget in order to do that. Whether the budget goes for AdWords, building a website, credentialing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The second part of your plan is to create a financial plan for your private practice and look 1 to 2 years out. If you get X amount of clients, how much income will you bring in? What will your expenses look like? And plan that out at least for 1 year. Look at things like taxes. Look at things, and taxes are going to be so personal and specific to your situation. If you're married, if you have dependents, if you file separately, if you have XYZ going on. It also depends so much on your state. We're in some ways lucky that we don't have state income tax. I mean, I'm glad I don't have to pay it, but there's other pluses and minuses. But my tax rate is actually lower than some other people's tax rate. And so you want to account for that. Working with an accountant can really help you plan that out because they know your specific tax situation, especially somebody who's been working with you. So you want to know what you need to bring home for your personal life, what you need for your business, what you need for taxes, right? Like those are really the 3 buckets for private practice. Profit, yes, that's always important. But those are the 3 main buckets you're really going to be looking at. Like, how much money do I need for my personal life? Like, how much money do I need to live? How much money am I going to need for taxes? And what's it going to cost me to run this? And that's why a lot of people are doing virtual practices because they're really trying to keep their costs very low, which I get, so they can maximize how much money that they're taking home. But you also want to look at how are you going to get clients and make sure that you're getting the call flow and the call volume that you need in order to get the revenue that you are looking for. So that all goes together. So you see how you need to know how much money you need to make, big picture, top line, your top revenue. your gross revenue for your private practice. So you know how much you're going to pay yourself, you know how much you're going to set aside for taxes, you know how much you're going to set aside for expenses. And that's how I have always run my private practice. I've always looked at how much, what's the bottom line that I need? If there's more, I'll take more. If I have a high profit month or quarter or year, sure, that's always a bonus. Once you get going in private practice, year 2, year 3, you'll really have enough data to see maybe I can pay myself more and I can pay down my student loans, or I can, save up for a vacation or do something amazing. And so those things can happen. I'm going to tell you about how you can make those things happen. But first, I want to thank our sponsor, TherapyNotes. They help it happen for me because they allow for me to be able to run so many great metrics on my group practice that I'm able to look at note count reports and look at revenue. I can see aging reports. So it's so amazing how many report functions there are in TherapyNotes. One of my favorite things, I always talk about that. But they do have a free telehealth option. You can send reminders to clients. They just came out with customizable forms. That's so exciting. Everybody's very excited about that. And so if you're looking for an electronic health record, that's really full service. And they also just came out with 24-hour customer service. Woohoo! Though I'm never working on my notes at 2 a.m. or working on reports at 2 a.m., but maybe other people need that. I highly recommend that you check out TherapyNotes. So going back to how you can set yourself up for success is you want to track your income every single month. You want to track your expenses every single month. And you want to make sure that you are collecting data for long periods of time. The more data you have in terms of your finances, the better it is going to be to help you plan, to know how much money is coming in, to know what the slow months are, to know what the busy months are, to know what your expensive months are. Maybe for us, taxes come right around the same time that our CPH, the liability insurance, right? And so I always know that. I'm in April, the taxes come. In May, the liability insurance comes. I just, a couple of weeks ago, I had to pay, and these are larger sums, right? I had to pay our workman's comp. So I have to make sure I make a note of that. So I know that the budget might be a little higher this month because we have these bigger cost items. But by knowing that, having your data, even if you just keep it in Excel, I kept it in Excel in the beginning. I do recommend you use an accounting software like QuickBooks, would be really helpful for your personal life. You need a budget, Mint, these kinds of applications are really great. But the more that you keep yourself organized, the more you keep, your finger on the pulse, the better you'll be at making decisions on how to really financially prepare yourself for private practice. I hope this was helpful. I'll see you soon, everybody. Bye.